Captain Rena Valtel stood still in front of the council hall. Her face was calm, but her heart was heavy. She was a Velari warrior, tall, strong, trained in combat since childhood. She had led her people in battles, won medals, and never questioned orders. But today's order was different. She was to take a human as her bondmate. It wasn't a request. It was a command from the High Council. After years of war, Earth and the Velari Dominion had finally made peace. And to make sure the peace stayed, both sides agreed to a cultural unity program. That meant one thing: bonding humans with Velari. A show of trust, a show of unity. Rena hated the idea. She didn't hate humans, but she didn't respect them either. They were weaker, slower, soft, and now she was to be tied to one for life. The council doors opened. Inside, her human mate waited. His name was Dr. Ethan Ross. Rena stepped in. Wearing her black uniform and silver armor, she kept her face blank. Even though a dozen council members were watching, Ethan stood across the room. He looked nervous, but didn't back away. He was nothing like a warrior. He wore a simple gray coat, held a tablet in one hand, and had soft eyes behind thin glasses. His brown hair was a little messy, and his voice was quiet when he spoke. Captain Valtel, he said, giving a small nod. It's an honor. Rena didn't answer at first. She studied him. Thin arms, no scars, a gentle voice. He didn't seem scared. Just calm. To calm. Do you understand what this bond means? She asked firmly. Ethan nodded. Yes, I've read the treaty details. I'm here willingly. She narrowed her eyes. Willingly? You agreed to be tied to someone you don't know? Ethan gave a small smile. Pieces worth strange steps. That answer surprised her. The ceremony was short. They placed their hands on the Unity Crystal. A soft light glowed as their names were linked in the Dominion records. From that moment, they were officially bondmates. After the ceremony, they were given their shared mission, a diplomatic tour across several planets. It was meant to show the galaxy that humans and Velari could work together, and they had to live, travel, and work as one. They boarded the diplomatic starship Orlis the next day. Rena took the forward chamber. Ethan was given the adjoining room. The walls were thin. She could hear him moving, unpacking, even talking to himself quietly. It annoyed her. She didn't want this. She didn't want him. At dinner, they sat across from each other in the ship's small mess hall. She ate her protein cubes in silence. Ethan had something human vegetable stew. She thought, You've never bonded before? He asked, trying to break the silence. No, she said, flatly. Ethan looked down. Me neither. More silence. She stared at him. Why did you agree to this? He looked up, and his eyes were serious now. Because I believe this can work. Maybe not easily, maybe not quickly, but I think your people and mine need something real. Something more than words. I wanted to help. Rena didn't answer. Later that night, she stood by the ship's window, watching stars pass by. Ethan was asleep in the next room. She could hear his slow breathing. For some reason, she listened to it longer than she meant to. The next few days were quiet. They spoke only when needed. Rena focused on reports and defense protocols. Ethan studied alien biology and culture. He spent hours reading, sometimes humming to himself softly. One evening, he knocked on her door. I was going to the observation deck, he said. Thought you might want to come. The nebula lights are visible tonight, she wanted to say. No, but something in his tone wasn't pushy. It was kind and respectful. She followed him without a word. The observation deck was wide and quiet. Through the glass dome above, green and blue clouds of the nebula swirled in space. It was beautiful. They stood side by side. Do you miss Earth? She asked suddenly. Ethan nodded. Sometimes. My sister's garden, rainy days, real coffee. Rena had never tasted coffee. Do you miss Velari? He asked in return. She blinked. I don't miss things. I move forward. He smiled. Of course you do. You're a soldier. For the first time, she didn't feel judged, just understood. Before she could answer, an alarm blared. Warning. Hostile vessel approaching. shields up. Rena ran to the command panel. Ethan, stay. Behind me. No chance, he said, grabbing his comm. Outside, a small pirate ship was trying to lock onto the Orcs. The crew was minimal, just Rena, Ethan. Into support techs. Not enough for a full defense team. The pirates tried to breach Rena. Led the defense, her blade glowing as she fought. She moved fast, striking with perfect skill. But during the fight, one of the pirates got past her heading toward the civilian bay. Ethan followed, no weapon in hand, but with fast thinking. He activated the emergency door seals, trapping the pirate inside a stasis pod chamber. When the ship was safe, Rena stood in the hallway, breathing hard. She looked at Ethan. His face was bruised, but he was smiling. You disobeyed me, she said. I saved the tech crew, he answered calmly. She stared at him for a long time. Maybe humans weren't as soft as she thought. The ship Orcs floated quietly in deep space. Days had passed since the pirate attack. Captain Rena Voltel repaired her armor in silence. She still didn't understand Ethan Ross. He wasn't trained for combat. He had no weapons, and yet he had risked his life to stop a pirate from reaching the civilians. Most humans would have hidden, but not him. She didn't like it. She didn't like not understanding. In the small mess hall, Rena found Ethan sitting alone. He was reading something on his tablet and sipping warm water. He looked up and smiled. Good morning. Rena didn't answer. She sat down across from him, opened her ration pack, and started eating without a word. You don't have to talk, Ethan said calmly. But if you ever want to, I'm here. She looked up slowly. Why do you act like this is normal? It's not, he said with a small laugh. It's strange, but that doesn't mean we can't make it work. Rena stared at him. His voice was always calm. No pride, no arrogance, just quiet strength. Later that day, they received new orders. Mission change, attend peace talks on Nera 7. New route assigned, possible danger zone detected. They were to travel to Nera 7, a neutral planet where humans and Velari leaders would meet, but the new route passed through Sector Grey, a zone often used by Dravik raiders. The Dravik were not part of the treaty. They hated both humans and Velari still. The mission had to continue. Rena went straight to the command deck. She checked shield levels, weapon systems, and emergency protocols. She worked fast and with focus. Ethan walked in slowly. Want help? You don't know ship systems, she said. I read the basics. He replied, and I'm good with problem solving. She allowed him to sit beside her as they worked. She noticed he asked smart questions. He didn't guess. He learned fast. He didn't waste her time. For the first time, she said something rare for a Velari warrior. Good work, Ethan smiled. That might be the nicest thing you've said to me. Rena gave a short nod. Don't get used to it. Hours later, alarms rang out again. Warning, Dravik vessel approaching. Shields at 82%. Rena jumped into action. She activated the weapons and hailed the enemy ship. This is a peace vessel under treaty protection. Stand down or be fired. Upon, the Dravik responded with silence and then a direct attack. They were fast and aggressive. Rena stayed at the command station, controlling the shields and firing back. Ethan monitored the engines, making sure nothing overheated. A missile hit the ship. Sparks flew. The lights blinked. Rena gritted her teeth. They're trying to disable us, not destroy us. They want prisoners. I'll seal the lower decks, Ethan said, already moving. More hits shook the ship. Rena fired back, targeting the Dravik engine. One perfect shot, boom. The enemy ship slowed. But then something unexpected happened. A second Dravik ship appeared. Behind them, we're outnumbered, Ethan said, re-entering the command room. Escape plan? Rena opened a map. There's a gravity well nearby. Dangerous. But we can use it to jump into subspace. Ethan nodded. Let's do it. Rena handled the controls with perfect focus. The ship raced toward the gravity well. The Dravik followed, firing again. Ethan watched the numbers. Shields at 38%. Hold on, Rena said. They entered the edge of the gravity pull. Everything shook. Alarms screamed. The Dravik got closer. Rena hit the jump button. In a flash, the Orcs vanished into subspace. The Dravik were left behind. Hours passed before they came out of jump. The ship was damaged. Lights flickered. Walls had small burns, but they were alive. Ethan sat on the floor, breathing hard. Rena checked the systems. We'll need repairs. Communications are weak, but we're safe for now. Ethan gave a tired laugh. Remind me never to take a peace mission again. Rena turned to him. For the first time, she didn't see a weak human. She saw someone brave, someone steady. You handled yourself well, she said. Thanks. You too, Ethan said, trying to stand. His leg shook a little. He had hit it during the last attack. Sit, Rena ordered. She pulled a small med kit from the wall and knelt beside him. She wrapped his leg tightly, not saying a word. Ethan looked at her. You don't seem like the caring type. I'm not, she replied. But I don't let my team suffer. Team? He asked, smiling. She paused. Yes, team. That night, they sat in the dim mess hall. Rena stared at her food. Ethan watched the stars. He finally said, I used to think Valari were cold, but I think maybe you feel more than you show. Rena looked at him. Her voice was soft. I used to think humans were weak, but you're not. Ethan smiled. So, we're both wrong, maybe, she said, allowing herself the smallest smile. For a long time, they sat together in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It felt like the beginning of something different. Not friendship yet, not love, but respect. And that was more than either of them had hoped for. The ship Orcs came out of subspace near a green planet called Laura Prime. It was not their destination, but they had no choice after the Dravik attack. The ship needed emergency repairs. The planet had no large cities, only forest and research stations. But it was safe and quiet. Captain Rena Valtel stepped out of the ship first. Her boots pressed into the soft earth. Tall trees with golden leaves moved gently in the wind. The sky was a soft purple, and the air smelled like fresh water and warm stones. Ethan Ross followed behind her, limping slightly. His legs still hurt, but he didn't complain. A small research base welcomed them. The local team gave them supplies and tools to fix their ship. Rena spoke with the lead technician while Ethan explored nearby trails and hills. For once, there was peace. On the second day, the two of them sat beside a quiet stream near the forest's edge. Ethan skipped a stone across the water. You ever take breaks like this? He asked. No, Rena said. Rest makes you slow. Ethan smiled. I think rest makes you ready. She didn't reply, but she sat down beside him anyway. They talked for the first time about things outside war or duty. Ethan told her about Earth, how he used to teach at a university, how he loved to watch stars on quiet nights, how he used to stay up late with books and music. Rena listened quietly, and then told him about her childhood on Valari Prime. She spoke of hard training, honor tests, and how her mother was a famous warrior. She didn't smile much, but her voice softened as she talked about her younger brother. He always wanted to fly ships, she said. I told him he was better with machines than swords. Did he become a pilot? Ethan asked. He died in the Third Border War, she said simply. I'm sorry. Rena nodded. He was brave. I remember him every time I fly. They sat silently for a while. A bird-like creature flew overhead. Its wings shimmered in the sunlight. I never thought I'd feel calm in a place like this, Rena admitted. Ethan looked at her. Maybe it's not the place. She glanced at him, but said nothing. On the fourth day, disaster came again. A wild predator from the forest, a massive six-legged beast, wandered too close to the research base. It moved fast and smelled food. Before the scientists could react, it broke through one of the fences. Rena was already running toward the danger when she heard the alarm. She saw the creature near the storage bay, where Ethan had gone to get tools. Without thinking, she jumped in front of it, pulling her energy blade from her bag. Get back, she shouted. The creature roared, swinging its claws. Rena rolled aside and slashed at its side. It howled but didn't fall. She stood firm, breathing hard. Then she saw Ethan. He was trapped behind a fuel container. The beast was between them. Rena charged forward. The fight was fast and rough. She took a hit on her side, but she didn't fall. At the right moment, she flipped over its back and drove her blade deep into its spine. The creature collapsed. Rena stood, bleeding from her shoulder. Ethan rushed to her side. "You're hurt," he said. "It's nothing," she replied. He helped her walk back to the medical tent. As he cleaned the wound, Rena watched him closely. His hands were gentle. His face was full of worry, but not fear. "You keep putting yourself at risk," he said. "Even for me. I'm a warrior." She said, "I protect those under my care." He paused. "And am I under your care?" She looked at him for a long moment. Then, quietly, she said, "Yes." Ethan smiled. That night, they sat around a small campfire outside the base. The sky above them was full of stars. The wind was soft, carrying the scent of the trees. Rena stared into the fire. "I've fought many battles. I've lost comrades. I've seen whole cities fall. But I never expected to sit beside a human and feel." Still, Ethan added another stick to the fire. "Maybe stillness is a kind of strength, too." She looked at him. "I don't understand you. I don't expect you to," he said. "I just want you to know. I respect you, for what you've done, for who you are." She didn't answer, but when he handed her a small cloth to wrap her hand cut from the fight, she didn't pull away. They sat quietly for a long time. No words, just the fire, the stars, and the silence between them. But this silence felt different now. Not cold. Warm. Safe. Connected. As they returned to the ship the next morning, Rena stopped and looked back at the forest. "Strange," she said. "What is?" Ethan asked. "I'll miss this place." He smiled. "Me too." They entered the ship together, walking side by side. For the first time, Rena didn't feel like she was walking with a stranger. She was walking with someone she trusted, someone she respected, and maybe, just maybe, someone she was beginning to care about. The diplomatic ship Orcs landed on Velari Prime, Rena's homeworld. Sharp mountains surrounded the capital city, and the air smelled of stone, iron, and ancient trees. The sky was bright silver, clouds moving like waves above. For Ethan Ross, it was his first time stepping on Velari soil. Everything felt colder here, less welcoming than Laura Prime. The people stared, not in anger, but not with kindness either. Rena walked beside him in full armor. Her face was unreadable. "Stay close," she said softly. "I wasn't planning to wander off." Ethan replied with a small smile. They had returned to attend the Unity Assembly, a gathering of Velari leaders and military officials. The council wanted updates on the human Velari bonding program. Rena and Ethan were the first official bonded pair to return from active duty. Inside the Great Hall, large stone pillars stretched to the ceiling. Counselors in dark robes sat in a circle. Their eyes followed Ethan as he entered. "He is smaller than expected," one of them whispered. Rena heard it. She stood tall. "He is also braver than expected." There was silence. Then the main counselor, a tall woman with white markings on her cheeks, spoke. "Captain Rena Valtel. How has this bonding served the Dominion?" Rena answered firmly. "It has strengthened understanding. We survived multiple attacks. Dr. Ethan Ross proved himself more than once." Ethan remained quiet, letting her speak. One counselor frowned. "You defend him quickly. Is this only duty, or has emotion clouded your judgment?" That question struck deep. Rena didn't answer right away. But then she said, clearly, "I do not speak from emotion. I speak from experience. He has earned my respect." The council nodded slowly. But outside the hall, things were different. As they walked through the city, whispers followed them. Some Velari citizens bowed. Others turned their heads. A group of young warriors stood blocking their path. One stepped forward. A Velari warrior should not walk beside a soft-skinned human. Rena didn't move. "Step aside, or what? You'll defend him again. Is he your shield now?" Ethan stayed quiet, but his jaw tightened. Rena stepped closer. "I've fought in more battles than you've trained for." This human has done more for our people than you ever have." The warriors stepped back. They left in silence. Ethan looked at her as they walked on. "You didn't have to do that." "I did," she replied, "because they were wrong." That night, they returned to Rena's family house. It was quiet and built of dark stone, with a small fire pit in the center. Her mother wasn't there, lost long ago in battle, but her brother's room was still untouched. Rena walked through the hall silently. Ethan stood at the doorway. "Unsure, you can come in," she said. Inside, she showed him old photos, Valari-style memory plates. One showed her as a child, holding a training sword. Another showed her brother smiling beside a broken drone he used to build machines from scrap. She said, "He wanted to fix the world." "He sounds like someone I would have liked," Ethan said softly. They sat by the fire later, watching the flames flicker. "I didn't want this bond," Rena said suddenly. "I thought it was weakness," Ethan nodded. "I didn't expect much either. But now," she continued, "I think maybe we were both wrong." He looked at her. "What changed?" "You didn't give up. Not in the fight. Not in the mission. Not with me." She looked into his eyes. "I chose you now not because the council said so, but because you earned it." Ethan didn't answer for a moment. Then he said, "I chose you the moment I saw who you really were. Strong, loyal, more human than you now." Rena gave the smallest smile. The fire crackled between them. The next day, they trained together in a Valari courtyard. Rena showed Ethan basic defense moves. He moved slowly, but with focus. Left foot forward, she instructed. "Keep your center strong." Ethan tried. "Like this? Better," she said, adjusting his shoulder. They moved through the motions, their rhythm slowly matching. By the end, they were moving like a unit, different, yet balanced. Several young warriors watched from a distance. One of them whispered, "She's teaching him." "Like a real mate," Rena heard, but said nothing. She simply continued training. Later, as they rested under a stone arch, Ethan said, "You don't need to prove anything to them." "I'm not," she replied. "I'm proving it to myself." That evening, they received new orders: travel to the outer colonies and speak on behalf of the Unity Bond program. "Together, we will be symbols." Rena said. Ethan nodded. "Are you ready for that?" She looked at him. "Not long ago, I would have said no. But now, with you beside me, I think I am." He smiled. "Then let's show them." Before leaving, they stood at the highest tower of the city. Wind blew softly through their hair. The stars above were bright and endless. Rena said quietly, "You are not just my bondmate. You are part of my strength now." Ethan reached out, gently placing his hand over hers. "And you are part of mine," he said. No more wall stood between them. Not duty, not doubt, only choice. And for the first time, that choice felt right. The war had returned. The Dravik raiders had gathered in large numbers. Their attacks were no longer small raids, they were full battles. They targeted Earth and Valari colonies, hoping to break the fragile peace. Captain Rena Valtel and Dr. Ethan Ross were sent to Outpost Karos, a key defense base near the border of Valari space. The outpost was critical to hold. Losing it meant the Dravik could enter deeper. The tension was high. Soldiers moved quickly. Machines hummed. The sky was gray with smoke. Ethan watched the soldiers prepare. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from knowing what was coming. Rena stood firm, eyes scanning the horizon. "Stay alert," she told him. "This won't be easy." Night fell. Suddenly, alarms screamed. Dravik ships approaching. The commander shouted. Rena grabbed her energy blade and helmet. Ethan followed, clutching his medical pack. The first wave hit hard. Explosions rocked the ground. Soldiers fired energy weapons at the dark ships overhead. In the chaos, a sudden blast destroyed part of the base's walls. Smoke and fire filled the air. Then the worst happened. Ethan was caught in the blast. He fell, unconscious, under broken metal and dust. Rena saw it. "No," she yelled, pushing through the smoke. She reached him, lifting the heavy debris off his chest. His face was pale, breathing shallow. She radioed for medical support, but the Dravik had cut off all communications. Rena knew she had to act. She picked him up, despite the weight, and ran toward the safer zone. The enemy was closing in. Rena fought fiercely, slashing through attackers who blocked her way. She was wounded, bleeding from cuts on her arm and leg. But she did not stop. When she reached the safety of the outpost and a gate, she collapsed, setting Ethan down gently. Soldiers rushed to help. Medics took Ethan inside. Rena sat outside, hands trembling. She felt raw pain, but it was nothing compared to the fear inside her. Hours passed. Finally, a medic came out. He's stable, she said. He'll recover, but it will take time. Rena nodded, relief washing over her. That night, Rena sat by Ethan's bedside. His eyes fluttered open slowly. He smiled weakly. You came. I promised I would, Rena said, squeezing his hand. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. You are my strength. He whispered. Rena looked away, hiding her own tears. The next day, the Dravik launched a surprise attack on the outpost. Rena refused to leave. She joined the fight, leading the defense with fierce determination. With Ethan recovering behind the walls, she knew she had to protect him and everyone else. The battle was long and brutal, but in the end, the defenders held their ground. The Dravik retreated. Rena stood, battered but unbroken. When she finally saw Ethan, she knew the bond between them had changed forever. They were no longer just mates by treaty. They were partners, friends. More. The war was over. The Dravik had been pushed back, their power broken by the combined forces of Earth and Velari. Peace talks resumed, with new hope shining in the eyes of both peoples. Captain Rena Valtel and Dr. Ethan Ross stood together on the platform of the Galactic Unity Hall. Leaders from many worlds watched as they prepared to speak. Their story had become a symbol proof that two very different species could come together, not just by treaty, but by choice. Rena looked at Ethan, her mate, not by force, but by heart. You have healed, she said softly. More than your body. Ethan smiled. And you have healed, too. She took his hand. The crowd hushed. Rena stepped forward. I stand here today, not just as a warrior, but as a partner. Ethan and I were forced to bond by law, yes, but what followed was beyond any command. Ethan nodded. We chose each other, through battle, through hardship, and through trust. The leaders applauded. Later, they were offered positions of power. Ethan to lead scientific outreach for Earth, and Rena to command a special peacekeeping fleet. But they chose something different. Together, they accepted the roles of joint ambassadors. For the Unity Bond program, they would travel the galaxy, showing others what was possible when trust and respect grow between people. Before leaving, they returned to the quiet garden where they had first grown close. Rena looked at the stars. Above, we were strangers forced together. Now, I can't imagine life without you. Ethan pulled her close. Nor I without you. Their bond was no longer a duty or a treaty. It was love, stronger than any order, deeper than any war, a new hope for the future. Together, they faced the endless stars, ready to build a better galaxy, hand in hand.